Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session today. My name is Ray Kafity. I'm the Vice President for Attivo Networks, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa, based in Dubai. And today we are going to talk about, in my opinion, an extremely important subject that centers around the MITRE attack cyber framework, coupled with the MITRE Shield cyber knowledge base. We're going to talk about these two industry standards frameworks, and we're also going to talk about how cyber deception fits in these two models from MITRE. So we will. The agenda for today is to go through the MITRE attack cyber framework in some level of details, to highlight to you where cyber deception fits in and cover in the attack framework, talk to you about some of the cyber tests that has been done by the MITRE Corporation and how deception helped in enhancing the detection rates of the attacks or the attack simulation that was done on those tests, and then also talk to you about the MITRE Shield knowledge base and the combination of the Shield and the cyber attack framework, and how do they work together. And as well, how does the cyber deception cover, in the Cyber Shield framework? So, let's start with the MITRE attack cyber framework, the origin of it, and where does it? How did it originate, and some of the specifics in that model. So the MITRE Corporation is a company based in the US. It has been widely known to be a defense contractor, specifically in the cyber defense field. They've done a lot of different activities with regards to cyber tests, cyber research, cyber development. And recently they've come up with a very attractive framework that has been catching some wide recognition in the market. It's called the MITRE attack framework. And the MITRE attack framework, it provides kind of a data model for protecting the enterprise against cybersecurity threats. So the attack framework has the cyber attacker in mind and concentrate on the threat models and methodologies that the cyber attacker deploys in developing a plan to attack networks across the market. So within the MITRE cyber attack framework, there are tactics and techniques that are widely used by the cyber attacker, and those have been studied, explored extensively by the framework, and are listed to provide a comprehensive list of the attacker behavior, and also will help the organization look at those lists and have methodologies to protect the enterprise against cyber threats and cybersecurity threats in the industry today. So if you look here, this is the expanded model of the attack framework from MITRE. And if you look here, I talked to you about 12 different tactics. These are the tactics showed in the horizontal bar here. And under each tactics, there are various techniques that are deployed by the attacker. All the way from the initial access or the initial exfiltration of the organization's network, all the way to the impact of the attack or of the cybersecurity threat that maybe culminates in data exfiltrations or the damage to the organization. As you can see here, there are three primary phases that the attack framework has. One is depicted here in the left-hand side of the screen, where this phase is called the initial or the initial breach or the initial intrusion of the network or of the endpoint. And primarily, this is where the endpoint detection detection and response vendors have deployed massively in the market today to be able to prevent the initial breach or the initial infiltration of the organization networks through the breach of the patient zero of the endpoint. So this is the first phase or the first phase of the MITRE attack framework. On the right-hand side, which is the actual impact, and after the attacker successfully breached the networks and move around the networks, then the final or the third phase, which is the exfiltration of data, which is connecting to the command and control center, and also to realize the malicious impact on the organization. And primarily, this phase here are dominated by data leakage prevention solution providers in the market today, that their core strength is to prevent command and control communication and hopefully prevent exfiltration of data and maybe minimize the impact of the attack on the network. And you can see that this is really after the effect. So this means that the attacker has managed to penetrate the environment, have moved inside the network, and has managed to reach its final destination and exfiltrated data. Now, what has not been really focused on in the industry today is the phase between the initial compromise or the initial breach to the data exfiltration on the third phase. This is called the internal movement or the lateral movement inside of the network, which is the kind of the second phase that comprise the attack model. And this has been largely kind of misdirected or not being focused on in some level of details till cyber deception came into the play. And as you can see here, deception plays a very core role in trying to detect some of the tactics in this phase, the tactics that are used used by the attacker when he starts, when he manages to bypass and get in the network and start lateral movement, start doing account manipulation, start doing collecting some data or some credentials inside the network. This phase has been largely ignored actually by the EDR vendors and by the DLP vendors. However, deception has come into the picture to be able to realize and focus on these in some level of details. So So deception has really gained some incredible momentum when trying to detect the malicious movements inside of the network. As you can see here, as I mentioned to you before, there has been, or there is 12 different tactics that are used, and under all those tactics, there are 185 different techniques. And Attivo deception is proudly announcing that we can now identify 135 techniques out of the 185 techniques that are used by the attacker. So if you inject deception within your security portfolio or with your security defense mechanism, you can now be able to identify very clearly and very precisely the techniques that the attacker is using, and you will be able to report on them. So this is of paramount importance to be able to identify those malicious activities inside of the network. Now, what MITRE has done is they have emulated an attack scenario called the ATT&CK, and this ATT&CK has been attributed by the Russian government. It was in existence since 2008. So we have a lot of information, or MITRE has a lot of information on this attack. And what they did is they assembled that attack and emulated the attack against a lot of EDR vendors in the market today, as you can see on the on this slide. So they've simulated that attack, and they have measured the detection rate of that attack, with EDR being on its own or the EDR vendor coupled with Attivo as a deception solution installed in that endpoint. And you can see here that the detection rate improvement against ATT&CK was drastically improved once Attivo deception has been inserted in the endpoint alongside with the various EDR vendors that were tested against. And as you can see here, the improvement against 4 different vendors, and we didn't want to divulge their name, but these improvements range from 17% improvement in detection rates all the way up to 93% improvement in detection rates. And if you take the average improvements against the APT test with Attivo deception being inserted in that environment, we've realized that the average improvement of 42% that has been realized if organizations adopts deception in their endpoint protection and security. So it becomes now part and parcel in their endeavor to fortify and build a very secure endpoint for the defense against cyber attackers. So that is the MITRE attack framework. Now let's move on to talk a little bit about the MITRE Shield knowledge base. So the Shield knowledge base is instead of focusing on the cyber attacker, now it has the cyber practitioner in place, and the actual Shield, they help in adopting active cyber defense mechanism and engagement to help change an attack engagement from defensive to offensive. So the Shield framework is a set of data model that, or a set of tools that are allowing the cyber defense practitioner to deploy in their network to be able to, like I said, to change the engagement with the attacker from being just defensive, just absorbing the attack, to being offensive, to really counterattack, and from being reactive to becoming proactive. So instead of the network becoming the victim of the attack, now the network not only can absorb the attack, but it can now be on the offensive to track the attacker inside the network and help hopefully try to mitigate and get the attack neutralized before the impact happens in the organization. So the active defense range from basic cyber defensive capabilities to advanced cyber deception and adversary engagements operation. Deception has a lot to do with active defense because deception help and deploys technologies and methodologies that engages with the intruders, in such a way that protects the network or protects the production environment and the infrastructure for being attacked. So deception is a way of building resiliency and building active engagement with an attacker, but not in your production environment, but allowing the attacker to execute the attack and the malicious activity on a fake and a deceptive environment that is built inside of the network. And therefore, you are now taking that active defense one notch higher by allowing the network to absorb the attack and allow the attacker to execute his malicious activities, and watching what the attack is doing, and therefore trying to mitigate and provide the intelligence necessary to mitigate the attack and hopefully to get rid of the attack before the final impact happens to the organization. So it is the shield is again coupled with the MITRE attack framework, provides a comprehensive tools, solutions, features, methodologies for the cyber practitioner to be able to defend, to be able to engage with intruders in the network in a safe manner, and hence protecting some of the jewels, infrastructure assets of the companies involved. So the shield framework is similar to the attack framework. It's a matrix environment, and the shield has 33 or have listed 33 techniques that covers 190 use cases that are widely relevant in the marketplace that attackers are using day to day in their attack techniques to networks. So if you look at the shield matrix here and what Attivo covers in each of those in this matrix, you can see here, as I mentioned in the previous, there are 33 shield techniques and 190 use cases, and here it lists the threat defend platform from Attivo and some of the use cases that are covered by Attivo from the shield matrix framework, and therefore it really begs the conclusion that now deception and deception solutions, it is something that is paramount to organizations to deploy in their network, because it has been validated by the MITRE attack framework and the MITRE shield knowledge base, that it has improves the detection capabilities of tools that are already installed in the network today. So in summary, I would like to say that Attivo covers 27 of the 33 Shield techniques that are published within the Shield knowledge base. And out of the 190 use cases that are outlined in the Shield knowledge base, Attivo Threat Defend solution covers 123 use cases that are part of the Shield knowledge base. So it is, and if you touch base on the Attivo coverage for the MITRE attack framework, we've seen that Attivo Threat Defend platform covers 72 techniques out of the 135 techniques that are presented in the MITRE attack. So this conclusion is extremely important for cybersecurity practitioners, for chief information security officers, for SOC analysts to deploy deception solutions and techniques and methodologies in their network to be able to realize and to alert on the lateral movement inside the network early in the life cycle of the attack, as to prevent the prolonged presence of the attacker inside the network, and to engage proactively with the attacker in a way to be able to alert early of their movement inside the network and help mitigate and prevent the eventual impact of command and control communications or exfiltration of intellectual property data and sensitive information that the company is safeguarding from being in the hands of cyber criminals and cyber attackers. So that actually concludes my presentations. I'll be available for any Q&A sessions that come out of this session. So please raise those questions, and I'll be able to answer them as much as I can. Again, thank you very much for your attention, and look forward to engage with you in the future. Thank you.